You're
That's right.
now the CEO and founder of Solvvy. Would you tell us, how did Solvvy come about?
Absolutely, Adam. Yeah, and I want to say that that the real foundation stone for Solvvy came from the PhD work that my co-founders Justin and Mehdi did at Carnegie-Mellon University in the area of artificial intelligence and natural language processing, working with a very distinguished member of our advisory board, Tom Mitchell, under his tutelage. And they had actually come up with some very powerful technology that was essentially natural language understanding, ability to do to find answers to questions. It was a project that became well known, called Read the Web, that came out of CMU, that was featured in the New York Times among other publications. And so when I met them, they had already moved out to the Bay Area, had gotten some very early small amount of funding, and were thinking about doing something in the consumer space with the technology, which allowed you to express issues in everyday natural language and be able to have it find answers on wiki pages or web pages and actually identify the specific answer to your question. I think one of the early things was, how do I fix the belt on my lawnmower, on this particular lawnmower? And it would find the exact place in the wiki how page for that lawnmower and tell you how to fix it. So it was things like that. But when I met them, there was no business plan, there was no revenue stream, and so we set about thinking. I joined them in an advisory role because I had just come off the sale of another company, and set about thinking about how would we apply this technology to a commercial purpose in a business context, in a B2B context. And so that's really how the present iteration, if you will, of Solvvy came about. We did a number. The first thing we did was I had arranged about 35 different customer interviews where we sat, and we didn't tell them what we were building. We simply said to them, tell us what your problems are and what have you tried to solve those problems? What solutions have you tried? What are gaps that you wish, if you had a magic wand? And we just listened. And we kind of went back to a drawing board after we did doing those interviews, and with the help of someone who was an expert in the space, we kind of mapped out where the problem statements were in the life of somebody who's leading customer support or customer experience. Mm-hmm. And it became clear to us that one of the opportunities was that if we could solve end user issues right away in a way that was actually helpful to the end user, we would be saving the businesses a lot of money and time. Right? We were going to knock off both of those benefits in one, right? We were going to give the user back what they needed, and we were also going to save the company time. They didn't have to deploy an agent to solve that issue. So that's how kind of Solvvy came about. Is we listened, we learned, and then we built a prototype. We took it out to a customer or two. We had them test it out, and they liked it, fortunately. And since then, obviously, we've developed the product and the platform in many, many different ways, and it's much more robust than it was then. But that was the original concept of Solvvy, is answering user questions so that they didn't have to talk to an agent. And that still remains one of the core principles today.